All right, and we're running. Welcome, everybody. Hopefully, like I said, more people will show up, Jake. But for now, we're gonna you and me jump in and start talking about this because we've got a lot to cover tonight. Multicolor's got a ton of essences, so guess I'll introduce Jake. Is here again tonight. Jake Trollber, you guys might have seen him, or his new tag in the Discord, Griffin the Fourth, taller than Rawl.
I am waving, but nobody can see it.
Fair enough, fair enough. But yeah, we're gonna do multicolor today. This is gonna start with a big chunk of essences. There's like a lot of multicolor essences that kind of help you facilitate your decks when you're creating, decks of different color combinations and stuff like that. So you can always have access to the colors of resources you need to play your cards. That's a big part of the game. Is I'm very pro play your cards. I don't want you to get screwed over and be sitting there looking at all the sweet cards in your hand and not have any ability to use them. So, as you're going to see in kind of the beginning of this presentation tonight, that there are just probably too many ways to make the colors that you need. In all honesty, but that's like I said, that's kind of part of the main idea of the game. Right off the rip, we've got the kind of what would you even call this? Like the basic dual essence, right? This thing has two colors that
Yeah.
it produces, but it doesn't do anything. There's no flash. There's no flare. I'll just very quickly kind of thumb through them. There are all 15 possible combinations. Uh, just, I mean, there they all are, right? Um, when you're building decks, like how often are you using these? Like, where do they fit? Like, what's your perspective on your basic dual essences?
Uh, there's quite a few cards that take this essence, but like sometimes you have to sacrifice a little bit of stats to put these duels in because like you might have a card that has three CCC and like you want to give it a fancy pure earth essence or something. But
Yeah.
once you get through and you're building the deck, you realize I really need this color for my second like the second color I have. I really need to have proper resources so I can manage it better. I have to sacrifice those stats or that ability and put the basic in.
Yeah. I mean, that's fair. I definitely understand that perspective. I'm a big fan of the three color deck, so I'm very often,
I
digging
pretty
for
much always play.
space for the dual essences. I think one of my favorite things about these dual essences is that you can use them on your tech cards, right? Oh, you're playing Extinguish. You're
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
playing, anti-item cards or anti, something or like a counter spell that's going to be good on certain board states but not others. Whatever it happens to be, you get to make your card that you want in some games perform really well in the resource game for those other games, right?
Yeah.
So I'm always looking for like those spots where I can be like, okay, in this deck, like this card is not super critical to my core strategy. This is a good spot for me to hold my dual essence so that I can both, fix my resources in some games, but then once in a while I'm gonna have this ace in the hole that I can just play.
Yeah.
And yeah, it's I mean that's again just one of the great like sort of like cross sections of deck building is where you just get to make these little micro decisions that end up mattering, quite a bit down the line.
Yeah.
But yeah, those are the basic ones. So there's like I said, there's all 15 possible combinations that look like that. The next set of essences, I'm going to actually pull up a couple of different things at the same time, I think. The next set of essences are a little bit different. How do you explain these? The basic
This
idea
is
is go ahead.
this is where the fun begins.
Yeah, this is where the fun begins. So we've kind of gone through all the colors and we've seen, and I'm just going to actually pull up the infused essences really quick. I've got them right here. We've seen that each color has an infused essence that gives a small piece of the color's sort of identity to the card for a very slow investment of card construction cost, right? You've got infused air essence here for +1 speed. Infused dark gives +2 initiative. Uh, infused earth gives surge 1, which is remember recover a resource. Infused fire gives +1 power. Infused light is +1 HP, and finally, infused water is evasion 1, which again, as a recall, is pay 1 to target the card that this is on. So you get these little tiny pieces of the color on the infused essences, right? But then you got these guys, and kind of the best way to think about them is you just took two infused essences and just smashed them together of whatever two color combinations, right? So brackish essence. You go ahead and read what this does. I mean, this has got a ton on it for an essence.
So the first thing you see in the top right corner is the +1. These essences do add a cost to the card, so cards will go from like 2 to 3 or 5 to 6. So it is a bit of a like quite literal cost to play these. They are low on their actual card construction value, so these go on a lot of cards, which gives you a lot of customization. The brackets, for instance, like Kenny said, it really literally is just two infused mashed together. You get your invasion one, you get your +2 initiative,
Yeah.
and you get 3 per deck.
And don't sleep on the fact that it still does also produce dark and water, right? So you're playing your play set already of like dark and water basic dual essences that all it does is fixes your colors. This gives you slot 4, 5, and 6 to do that same thing. So if you're playing a deck that has really like harsh colored requirements where you have cards that maybe cost like double or triple dark and double or triple water, cards like this are going to help you a ton. Like being able to actually have access to all your colors. One of the things I really like about these, and I kind of try to take a step back when I'm analyzing them. You already mentioned the +1 cost up in the top corner. They also enter the resource zone exhausted. So it's actually an interesting like form of balance where yes, you're getting double the abilities. They're really low CCC, so you can jam them on tons of different cards. But having them in your deck and like playing them is always going to set you back a turn, whether you're resourcing it or playing it out of your hand. Because again, like you said, your 3-drop becomes a 4-drop. I had to wait a turn to play my guy, right? Mm-hmm. Or you're putting this down in the resource zone. If you just put this down on turn 2, you don't have access to a 2-cost card. You can, this resource is already used for the turn essentially. It's already exhausted. But yeah, we can click through these pretty quickly. We don't have to really harp on them because like honestly, if you remember what the infused essences do, just pick 2 and jam them together, and that's one of these essences. There's every combination exists. There's the brackish, and then it just goes from there. And some of them are a little more mundane, like bright essence is just an HP and a power, but like.
Just an HP and a power.
Yeah, just an HP and a power, right? Like that's like a lot of stats on a card that you can just toss like anywhere, little less text, I guess, is what I mean to say. But yeah, we have them all, like all the possible combinations. Just kind of click through them, get them all on camera for a second. And some of them are really interesting because they do stuff like this one, for instance, gives initiative and speed is also initiative. So this is actually just like ridiculous in like initiative-based decks to like have access to both, It's almost like a better slick essence kind of. It's reflective, shadowy, smoldering. This one's a fan favorite. Actually, really quick side note, like Jake, why is this essence so important?
It's definitely, it just makes assassin like kill 80% of the units in the game.
Yeah, so Jake's actually like the inventor of assassin plus smoldering essence plus throne room, and it's a sick combination. I don't think you guys have seen throne room yet, but basically. The punchline we'll tell you right now is adding a cost to your card isn't always a negative. It's not always bad to pay 5. Let's see. Yep, got steaming. Little surge plus speed. This one's another one that you play quite a bit just to get.
Torrid, right?
Time worn.
Or time worn.
Yeah.
I mean, I play.
Torrid's also very good. Yeah, I mean, there are a ton of them, and then there's advanced. So yeah, again, all 15 possible combinations. If you need to fix your colors, you've got. A backup set of essences you can go to that are maybe a little like tougher to play at times, but you get some punch out of them. Being able to get those extra stats twice, in this case, surge and initiative or whatever combination it is that you're playing, like that can matter a lot.
And I'll add that a lot of the like interesting tactics that players come up with a lot of the time fall on these essences.
That's true. These are some of the more creative ones when you're putting them on certain cards because it allows you to do 2 things at once. That's one of the things I was going to say about Time Worn. I mean, you've played this on a lot of cards that are like Earthlocked, for instance. Earth cards don't normally get a stat, and they're usually gigantic, big, dumb dudes, and then you slap, what is technically an Earth essence on it, but is also technically an Air essence, and all of a sudden your giant monster is gaining speed, and that becomes an issue.
The nice thing about Time Worn is that because of Surge 1, it's essentially the same cost.
That's true. I mean, you got to pay a little more upfront, but you do get it right back. Very, very true. But yeah, these essences are really strong. They're really like fundamental to a lot of deck building. Like you were saying, when you're doing interesting things, like most of the time it's because you've worked in one of these 2 CCC, +1 cost dual essences, and they go a long way. All All right, last two essences actually. We kind of like crushed that. We kind of got through them really quick. I'm actually happy with that.
Yeah, you explained one. You explained most of them, right?
That's true. Like if you understand how infused essences work, you kind of get the pitch on those guys.
So useful.
There are two colorless essences, so to speak, right? Here's the first one. This is Soulful. The text on it says, this essence unlocks all bound abilities of this card. So we've seen some cards that have like, like Airbound, gain a power, or like Earthbound, when this card is destroyed, it becomes a resource, or many different texts that were bound to the color of the essence. And we've seen in the past that in order to unlock that text, you have to use the associated color essence, right? Soulful doesn't care. Soulful unlocks all of them. Sometimes you can actually unlock multiples by putting this on one card. There are, I think, a couple examples like that. But this thing's really powerful because of that top text when you're putting your card into play. But if you're playing it as a resource, in the resource zone, you've got Exhaust, produce a resource of a type that any other card in your resource zone could produce. I mean, you play this card a lot. You play the like heavy mana symbol decks a lot, I think.
I play a lot of triple color decks.
Yeah,
so.
you play a lot of triple color decks that have like triple Earth in the cost of their cards and
There's
stuff.
a set like I think it's 2 or 3. There's a set 2 or 3 card that costs quadruple Earth.
Yeah,
and I'll put that right in a 3-color deck. Not even bad a sweat.
Why be worried about it when you've got Soulful like helping you out? But yeah, this card is awesome when you have. I mean, we talked about it a second ago. I said like if you're playing a water dark deck that's got like triple dark and triple water on your card costs, this thing can easily become both, right? It's like very easy for you to unlock this. I mean, if you ever play a single dual essence, it gets both of those colors. Even if you just play a basic water and a basic dark on 2 separate cards, this thing is still both. It's a
fantastic essence.
Really, really powerful. It doesn't give any stats. It's not like super fancy, but it's a workhorse, right? It like does what it does.
True.
It's also 4 CCC, so this thing is a little tougher to fit into some decks, like finding the spot to put this on. But there are usually spaces, and if your deck is strained on colors, this is definitely a way to help that out. And then we got one of my favorites.
This thing is
I love this card. I really, really love this card.
This card is like don't be fooled. Yeah. That's very appealing to have 3 stat points on something.
Yeah.
It only does fit a handful of cards, and I mean that first line of text is like really, really important.
It can be, absolutely.
When you lose your element, you lose a lot of synergy.
Mm-hmm.
I believe that this actually counts towards
it counts towards deck.
Card count.
Yep.
Yeah. So
yeah,
you gotta be careful when you're actually building your deck.
What Jake's referencing there is in order to play any given shrine, you have to have 20 cards of that shrine's color in your deck. So if you've got Soulless on one of your like cards that you were planning on using towards that count, it has no element. That card doesn't actually possess a color.
And more and more with like set 2 and 3, you're gonna see a lot of cards referring to the card's actual elements.
Mm-hmm.
There's quite a bit in set 1 already.
I mean, I can think right away. I mean, I've actually seen aggro decks that like play this alongside Elvira and like turn off their fire unit from getting the pump or being recovered, right? Like you can't even target it with Elvira's like bottom ability because it's not a fire unit. So like, but it's just like, you just make that choice to like have it in the same deck. And like you're saying, I mean, +1 to all stats
like
is
that being
strong.
Said, it's a lot of stats.
It's really strong.
And we the bottom ability. So the middle ability is no, you don't want your opponent to draw a card. But like, it's like always worth it. It's just a lot of stat points.
Yeah.
Because Fire has that essence of combat that adds all these stat points, but it adds a cost. So
yeah, it costs an extra fire, so you're behind by a full turn, and you're putting a big commitment in, right? Because like I know personally that Essence of Combat as used on Battlefield has been very often, for instance, right?
Yeah, like a triple fire card all of a sudden.
Triple fire is just not the easiest thing to play on turn 3 necessarily, and that guy loses his punch if you're playing him later in the game. I mean, he's clearly a curve out type of card. You want to get him in play as fast as possible. But yeah,
one more downside to this card is the third ability. If you end up playing this as a resource, it can't produce any element.
Right.
So it can only produce 1 colorless.
Yeah, and
if you got a guy like Battlefield's Headsman, you can't play it with this.
Right. And that's what I was going to say is it's also like this card causes problems in your deck sometimes if you're playing it in multiples. I mean, let's say you've got the full play set in here and you draw 2 at the same time.
Yikes.
because then it's like, oh, I don't really want to play either of these down as a resource. So they're gonna get like stuck in my hand. I'm gonna be like somewhat forced to like play them out, giving my opponent +2 cards, which can definitely swing a game in certain cases. It's that the fact that the resource zone only produces one colorless is probably honestly the biggest downside of the +1/+1/+1, because it's like,
Yeah.
man, I never ever want to play this as a resource, because it really hampers my ability to like play other cards.
Yeah.
Cramps my colors, so on and so forth. But yeah, this is really strong. I've been playing this in a lot of decks recently. I've been like, I kind of was off of it for a while. I was kind of like, I don't know if it's really worth it, this and that. And I've just been like made much more of a believer recently. I've been playing it on Opportunist. I've been playing it on Headsman. I've been playing it on, God, what's the other one? I know there's a third one that I played it on recently. I can't think. But yeah, this ton of stats. Best way to sum it up. Ton of stats. Go into the attack phase, hit people in their shrine, and do a lot of damage and try to win the game. That's what this essence does. Okay, I'm scared, but we're gonna go and look at some cards.
What, ruh-roh?
I'm scared because I know one that's coming up.
I've never played this card.
Is that an issue?
Maybe.
Does this card underperform?
Maybe because like the only people who play dark fire decks like would never ever play a card with only 8 printed stats.
Maybe. I'll concede the point that this guy is very rarely used. He's been in the set one file since the beginning of time. It's been over 3 years this guy's existed, and I don't think he's really changed in most of that time. And he has not gotten a ton of love.
Yeah, I feel like Dark just has like other stealth answers.
Yeah, I think he's a cool card, but I think the problem's not the word I want to use. The bottom line is that this ability would be much more welcome in colors that don't easily interact with like stealth units already, right?
Yeah,
like
exactly.
that's kind of where I see him. I don't even think his stat line is like that bad for a 3-cost. I mean, he's like a point behind like vanilla 3-cost cards for the most part.
Yeah, and then he loses that fight because he doesn't have the speed.
True, but I mean, you can give him speed. He's got he's got CCC space. But
his
yeah, no.
stat line is on Woodland Protector, and sometimes I just don't want to play Woodland Protector because it's like so slow.
But like Woodland Protector is also a 3-cost unit with this exact stat line and like an ability that is actually somewhat similar as far as like protecting your shrine, right? Like,
yeah.
I don't know. I think that this guy's so close, and I wouldn't mind taking a look under the hood with this one and like see if there's a way to kind of adjust him a touch and make him a little more.
I wonder how, like, is it too strong if this guy goes to 2 stealth?
Like decreases their stealth by 2?
Yeah.
I mean, let's do a thought exercise. If he just said units lose stealth while attacking your shrine, does he really like suddenly become super desirable? Like if you literally made it, lose all of your stealth. Honestly, I don't know. Yeah, I'm kind of in the same boat. I just feel like the ability doesn't like scream put me in your dark deck,
Yeah.
I think that's really what it comes down to. But I don't know. I mean, like I said, I would be super interested in, like I said, kind of taking a look at this guy. I mean, this is one of the main things I've been doing actually this past week-ish, 2 weeks, is starting to make a more aggressive list of cards that like need a proper look at, so that when we come back for our next stream, since this is the last like spoiler we have to do and all the cards will at least kind of have been shown once, we can start having some more conversations about like concept, design, color pie. Does this card fit here? I mean, this is a great card. This is a great example of a card that it might just be like, this card just doesn't fit in dark. This just shouldn't be a dark card. Like, this card's probably not underpowered, but it just can't perform in dark decks because dark decks don't care about that line of text. If this, just as an example, if this were like a light earth card, I feel like this guy gets played like 2 to 3 times as often as he gets played now.
Yeah, that'd actually be really good.
You see what I'm saying? Like, just as an example of like how this could be more desirable somewhere else. Maybe this ability needs adjusted. Maybe give him a stat point somewhere just to put him in line with some other cards. I don't know. But this is, like I said, I'll probably put this right on top of the list, honestly, because there are a handful of cards that I'm, like I said, already kind of setting to the side, and I want to start having more like drill down discussions about what makes sense, what fulfills the flavor, what fulfills the color pie, which cards are performing at a too high of a level, which cards are performing at too low of a level. I mean, obviously we've got a lot of complaints about Turn the Tides, but there's just as many complaints about Heat Wave, which is a card we're going to see tonight that I'm terrified to show everybody. It's literally an embarrassment.
Yeah.
But but this guy, I think he can make the list for something to definitely get looked at. This guy, on the other hand, why don't you go ahead and spoil him? Read him off for me, if you don't mind.
This is Ruben's world champ favorite card.
Probably.
I mean, biggest fan of this. He's a huge fan of this card. Arsonist, 2 colorless, Dark Fire, unit human, Darkbound +1 power. That's strange. Isn't that a fire thing? Oh, what's this? Firebound +2 initiative. Wait, that's a dark thing. That's weird. This has 2 bound abilities. I wonder what I could possibly do to unlock both. Maybe I could use one of those fancy dual essences.
Yeah, I like that.
I just realized you put smoldering on this.
Yeah,
room?
yeah, I know. Did you just figure it all out at once? Like,
what does it end up being? Like 5 power?
Yeah, 5 power.
That's gross. So yeah, when this card enters play, if played as the first action of the turn, deal damage equal to this card's power to target structure. So if you have initiative and you play this thing, you're actually burning them for like a good bit of damage.
Yeah.
Even just with the basic like Dark Fire essence that doesn't give it any stats.
Mm-hmm.
This is a 4/3/2 who just comes in and hits the shrine for 3.
Yeah.
That's like pretty good.
That's really strong. That stat line is not to be disregarded either. Like we've talked about this a little bit in the past. Having 4 HP is like a different number than 3 HP. Yeah. Like, I know that it's literally a different number, but like I can't stress, like in set 1 format, like there are just like a lot of 3 power units. There's a lot of 3 power damage effects. There's like a lot of 3s in this first set. So that's a standout. Like having 4 HP matters in this set. So yeah,
100%.
Super strong card. I mean, Ruben has played this thing probably more than anybody. I've cast this guy a bunch of times. Like this thing is a staple in your like Dark Fire sort of like pressure type decks, just having that direct damage. And key note, it doesn't go to a shrine, it goes to a structure. You can just blow up like a watchtower or a guard shack or whatever with this, right? It doesn't have to just be face damage. It actually has some additional utility otherwise. Sweet card. Oh, are these mixed up? They're not in color order? I just realized they're not in color order. They're just all like...
Just everywhere.
I mean, it's fine. We'll just go through them. I got them alphabetized.
Blade Warrior. 1 fire, 1 air. This card's very strong.
Yeah.
It's a human warrior. When this card enters play, deal 1 damage to target structure unit. So it has a ping, which is really nice.
Yeah.
The fact that it can target a unit or a structure is like actually really strong.
Yep.
The thing's stat line is insane.
It's good. It's good, but it's like bad against certain things, right?
Yeah.
Like 1 HP is obviously terrible. If both decks are playing Blade Warrior, you never want to play your Blade Warrior first, because then your Blade Warrior just kills my Blade Warrior, and it's like, oh.
Yeah.
Right? Like that's just like a really hyperbolic example, but like, spiked walls, like random pings from water decks, like Firebomb, right? Like there's a bunch of stuff that kind of makes that 1 HP look pretty rough.
That being said, this thing, I've seen this thing with 3 speed before, and just being a 3/3, 3 power and 3 speed is like really scary turn 2 and 3.
Mm-hmm. It is. I mean,
he just kind of beats ass.
It kind of just depends on what you're facing too, right? Like if you're playing against a deck that's on like 1 and 2 cost cards that are all wearing power essences and are walking around at 2 speed, then this guy's going to dominate, right? But if you're playing against a deck that's like playing, Grunt Slick or Refugee Infused Air or any of the random like 1-drop cards that have 3 speed, I can usually fight. I can like stand in the way of this guy and like not be that afraid, even if he has the speed stat, right? So it really comes down to like Blade Warrior is really good against the decks that are trying to be aggressive while also being aggressive himself, but might fall a little short against the decks that are like, I'm going to hold the board with like high speed units early so that I don't have to worry about getting rushed down,
Yeah.
And that's definitely like 2 big schools of thought as far as like building your deck and like what things you want to play up and down the curve. Like some decks want to go one way, some decks want to go the other way, and some decks don't even, don't play a 1-cost unit. They just comes to play tapped Dual Essence on turn 1 or whatever, right? There are plenty of like different ways to go about that, but this guy, he's good. This is another one of Ruben's like staples. He says I'm playing it in a 3-color deck. Yeah, like Ruben's main 2 cards are honestly probably Blade Warrior, Arsonist, and then I guess the third one would be your favorite Gal Warrior, right? Like if he can just
Gal Warrior and Blade Warrior, right?
if he can just get them all in, he's happy. I'm not sure. If I'm being honest, I don't know which one he plays more, but they're both good. And yeah, Raw the Lethal Protector says, "Wow, 1 HP must be bad." It really can be. There are certain situations where it can be a humongous liability.
I want to make a deck with this like next. This is my next deck. Is just putting this like I'm gonna put blinding on it, and nobody can stop me.
Yeah, go for it. Also has 1 HP, but yeah, go for it.
Just wins every fight.
Deadly Sneak. 1 colorless, 1 dark, 1 air. A human assassin that has accuracy, lethal, and stealth. And then like the most embarrassing stat line on a 3-cost card ever. 1 HP, 1 power, 2 speed. So he's not winning a lot of fights the old-fashioned way. What he is doing is hitting people with lethal. And lethal is a passive effect that basically says if you ever take combat damage from this guy, any unit, I should say, that takes combat damage from this guy, instantly killed.
It's a lethal strike.
It's a lethal strike. He gets you right in the jugular. You're donezo.
It's all over.
Point being, and I think what Jake is kind of alluding to, is if you can amp this guy's speed up so that he always hits first, he's just killing whatever he hits. And even more conveniently, he also has accuracy, which allows him to attack basically any unit, and he also has stealth, which makes him hard to defend.
Just saying, with Blinding Essence,
yeah,
guy picks off Raw.
That's true. That's true. This guy kills Raw with Blinding Essence. This guy kills basically anything with Blinding Essence, just not Dame Carry.
Gross.
Yeah. How gross it is. So yeah, this card's super interesting because it creates these board states where like no one is safe and all your guys die over like one turn, one per turn basically. And you basically need to interact with this in a non-combat way.
Yeah.
Even with 3 speed, AJ's played it against me with just 3 speed, like he didn't have blinding available or whatever. And it was in a deck that he built a week or 2 ago, maybe 3 weeks ago. And I will tell you that in no small number of games, he resolved this guy, and I would just immediately go, oh God. Like, I thought I was winning the board, and now I am not winning the board. I got to find a kill spell, like, right now. I need a targeted strike or whatever. I got to do something against this guy.
Yeah, she's a beast.
Yeah, really sweet card. I'm actually really happy with this one. I know that you remember the old version, like, did not have these keywords so plainly.
So
yeah, it just was not. It was yucky. This is a way sweeter card.
It
had like Dark Bound or something and something. We don't have to worry about it. Distrust. So this is a card that actually very recently changed, and I think that the new version is actually just kind of insane. It's a continuous event. So remember, when you play a continuous event, it basically plays like an event, but then stays in play, right? So you're casting this in response a lot of the times. Cost of water and an earth. When this card enters play, negate target event unless its controller pays 2. So you're hindering your opponent's ability to like play one of their own events. It's not the fastest card with only 3 speed, but it's gonna catch a lot of the critical like end of turn or close to end of turn where your guys are in combat, you're going back and forth, and they're like, okay, I'm gonna throw a targeted strike in here, I'm gonna throw a call lightning in here or whatever. You're gonna catch it with this a lot of the time. And then once it's in play, it's got this bottom ability that says whenever an opponent targets one of your cards, place this card into your resource zone exhausted. So it's like a delayed ramp effect that punishes your opponent for trying to kill your things after you've already punished them for trying to kill your things.
Yeah, no, it's good.
I think that I don't know if you remember the old version of this card.
I think it was like pay 1 and then like did it work twice?
It worked twice, but never twice at once or something. You get what I'm saying?
Yeah.
It was. I think it was a lot worse. I'll be honest. This version of this card has only been played, I think, 1 time, and I want to see it more. I think that this card could actually be like a humongous role player, especially in your heavy evasion decks, because it's already so hard to target, right?
Yeah.
I don't know. We'll have to see where this card
that
ends up.
That pay 2 is like a lot.
It's a lot.
sometimes I play something that I need like skin in my teeth. I had just enough resources,
Yep.
and if this came out, I'd be like, oh,
Yep.
well, thanks.
Yep. And it's just like I said, like if you're playing, your exploit might or your targeted strike or your whatever random, interaction that you really need to resolve, and I'm like, no, I'm gonna cancel that with distrust. It's not gonna get my guy this time. And then you're like, oh crap, I still really need to figure out a way to like kill the guy that I was trying to kill before. A couple turns later, or however far down the road you find the way to kill it, then this is just gonna become a resource. I'm gonna get like a free bump in my resource zone for for you finally answering the thing you already thought you had answered. I think this card has a lot of mileage on it. I think it can definitely change the texture of certain game states.
Yeah.
You were playing this guy last night.
Yeah. Meh.
What do you mean?
Meh. That one speed is such liability.
Yeah, I can agree with that, but I mean he's pretty big stats otherwise.
Yeah. I pretty much just used him to like throw a human away with the mock mask.
Okay, I mean, obviously an option. But this is Earth's Advocate. This is a 3-cost knight. This is in Light and Earth, and this one has the double bound abilities. This is actually an example of where you can put Soulful, right, and actually activate both abilities with him. But his Lightbound gains him regenerate 1, and then his Earthbound says if he's destroyed, you can place him to the resource zone exhausted. And Jake's sort of perspective right now is that his 1 speed is such a giant demerit that he just was throwing him away left and right.
True.
I don't know. I think that this guy's like less bad than you think he is.
Regenerate 1 is kind of like this dude dies in 2 combats. Like
he dies in 2 combats if you let him get into 2 combats back to back. I mean, if you ever can set up a situation where he just like kills a 2/2/2 or something, and then survives that turn, you can just leave him back to regenerate to full. Like you don't have to throw him back into combat like immediately. I mean, you can, if you don't mind getting your Earthbound trigger and getting a resource or whatever. But like, I don't know. I think this guy is. I think he's okay. I don't know. Maybe the 1 speed is something worth looking at. But I've always thought this card was fine. I've played this in quite a few of my like ramp decks just because it's like, oh, even if they do just cleanly kill him, it's still going to become a resource.
Maybe I should look more into the fact that he is a ramp card.
Yeah.
I think I'm gonna make a Geralt deck again, but like play every ramp card. Earth's Advocate, Distrust, Planting. See how it goes.
Yeah, I mean, just those is honestly like going to make a big difference. And you should also, and we talked about this in your Geralt ramp strategies, you were not playing Unseen Zealot, and I think that card is super key. And that card plays so well with ramp because eventually you get to a board state where you have so many resources out that you can play him and play the event that you get back in the same turn.
100%, yeah.
And that's like actually a big payoff for just having all these random like ramp cards just like floating around.
True.
But yeah, I think this guy's pretty fine. I see your point with the 1 speed, but I actually don't know.
I'd like to see him go up to regenerate 2.
Maybe. That's not crazy. It makes him a lot cleaner on the like I can kill your 2/2/2 and then be back in fighting shape next turn. Like that's not crazy. Let's see who's next. Fountain of Life. Okay. Why don't you go ahead and spoil this one?
Fountain of Life, a light and a water. Exhaust a unit, move any amount of damage from that unit to this card. 8 HP.
You also
2 CCC.
You also have to exhaust that card. Don't miss that. That is key.
Yeah.
It's exhaust a unit and exhaust this card, but yeah.
That's a pretty big heal.
It's an enormous heal, or can be.
Yeah.
I'm a personal like fanboy of this card. I've played this in so many of my Hallowed Ground decks just to get the like structure count up. And do not sleep on it with either an Ingenious Essence or a Trapmaster out.
Yeah.
Because now I can actually like create heal situations, in response to things, right? Oh, I've got like a damaged unit. You all of a sudden
responsive heals are very strong.
Yeah. I've got a damaged unit out. You can't throw a Call Lightning or a targeted strike at it because I could just go in response, heal that damage off. Now your kill spell didn't kill it. And next turn I'm going to do it again. I'm just going to get that damage back again,
Yeah.
I think that this card is like, it's got a ton of CCC space with only a 2, so you can put a lot of options on this. Ton of HP. Your opponent can't really reasonably attack into it and like try to just kill it quickly. Like you're almost always going to get at least a trigger off of it.
Yeah.
You know, it just fits into these types of strategies. I'm a big fan of like structure decks to begin with, and like playing a lot of structures. I think that like structures are one of the more interesting ways to gain incremental advantage on the board state. That like they kind of have a shadow buff to themselves, because as you add more and more structures to the board, it becomes more difficult for your opponent to like make the right attack every turn, because it's like, oh, I can actually attack like 4 different structures, like which one's actually causing me the biggest problem. And then you know what I'm saying, like it very much creates these board states where it's like, oh, my opponent has out a Fountain of Life, a Siege Trebuchet, a Pillory, and a Watchtower.
You're losing that game.
Which one am I attacking? Like, which one's actually causing me the problem? Because I do have a stealth unit in my hand, so that Watchtower kind of matters. But the Pillory is like shutting down my biggest guy. But I'm dying slowly to Siege Trebuchet. But like, you know what I'm saying? Like, it just creates these situations where it's like, oh man.
Yeah, next game, dude. They have
Yeah.
4 structures like that next game.
That's what I'm saying, and they just all give you value, and that's the one of the types of strategies I really like to play, is just like slowly build up this like fortress of just things, and make your opponent figure out how to deal with them all. There it is. There it is. Ruben knew it was coming. He's typing right now. He immediately started typing. Oh, I love it. So this is the most played card by Mr. Ruben B, the reigning world champion. It's got to be in every single one of his decks.
So many stats.
We have wondered if he cheats and just keeps one in his shoe and just pulls it out like in the middle of the match at times.
100% draw rate.
Always has it on turn 3 and turn 4 with a targeted strike to back it up. So this guy is huge. This is like the benchmark for a humongous 3-cost attacker. It doesn't really get any better than this. But we're dealing with Gal Warrior here. 3-cost unit, human warrior. Airbound, it gains a power and a speed. Firebound, it gains a power and a speed. Jake's already kind of made the joke, gee, I wonder what you can do with these like double bound cards. Well, you obviously put a dual essence on them in most cases and crank them up, right? Assuming this guy does have the essence of air and fire, he is a 3-cost, 3/4/4. Rules the board. I mean, this guy is really hard to beat in combat.
Here's a trick. You play one of him turn 3, and then you play your second Gal Warrior that has the +1 power and speed essence. That makes it a 3/5/5. You play that turn 4, and you win.
3/5/5 is kind of gross.
That's really big.
That's like actually insane. Torrid Essence.
Yeah, it's true.
just
I don't
aggro
know.
galore.
They just have too many good cards in these colors.
You say that, but wait until you see the 6-cost card we're about to talk about. that we're coming very close. We're drawing near on. No, I mean, I think part of my design philosophy is that there should be varying strategies, and I think that if you don't give the fire deck or the air deck or the dark, you know, whichever color it is that you're complaining about that seems too aggressive, it's honestly can be any of the 3. Even water gets pretty aggressive as the sets go on. But if you don't give aggro tools to something, then all the games just degenerate into like, let me see who can like, you know, windmill slam the biggest like 6-cost, 7-cost cards the most times in a row, and just try to always do the most powerful thing and not necessarily the fastest or the most efficient thing. And you know, without having that space where you have to respect the fact that people are going to play different strategies, the game looks a lot different. You know, I mean, you've played. You're one of the main people who plays nothing but like 6-cost and 7-cost cards. Obviously, even when you're building your deck, you have to appreciate the fact that some people are going to play grunt. Some people are going to start attacking you. You know.
Yeah.
Like that
I
matters.
don't like those people.
Well, yeah. I mean, it's just, you know, it takes a certain sort, but you know, I think it's important to include those cards. I think that you need them.
Range, he says. I guess.
Oh, Ruben's down to only 6/1 drops, so he's on mid range now. Hatred. Here we go.
Hate this card.
This is
one of those tech cards we were talking about.
Big time, and has the CCC space for a dual essence. You know, there's a lot you can do with this. It's clean though, right? 2-cost card. It's dark and fire.
Really strong.
And it just says destroy target unit if it's light, water, or earth. So it basically,
as a man who plays those 3 colors, I fucking hate this card.
Nice. Jake does main these 3 colors predominantly. Earth is his first love, but these other 2 are near and dear as well. And yeah, he hates hatred, which is
what really sucks about this card is like if you have a unit that's like fire, dark, and air, but also water, it does die to this.
Yes, sure. If you have a 4-color unit somehow. What is
Doesn't
that? That's
exist,
Raw
but
with Essence of Combat or something? Like, I don't even know.
it's scary.
I don't even know what you're trying to create. Yeah, I mean this. So it only kills half of the units in the game, essentially, right? It's like 50% of a hard removal card, but it feels a little more valuable than that, just by the virtue of like light, water, and earth cards tend to be. Well, I would say light and earth cards tend to be like such thick boys and like such a problem to deal with as far as like through pure damage or through combat. A lot of times having the hatred is like it just feels even better, just being able to just like kill that like 6 HP light card all in one shot, you know.
Where's my my love card that just kills our dark and air cards?
The power of friendship just kills. Like...
Yeah, you get it.
I think we're gonna see it in a minute. It's called this. I know I skipped one there, but this is the card you're talking about.
This was okay.
This card's really good. We'll come back to it. We're gonna talk about this thing first. So Heatwave.
You made this on purpose?
This is an embarrassment. This is so strong. So strong.
Yeah.
I don't even know how long I want to hang out on this. This card is currently open on my desktop right now inside of InDesign, going through the iterations, trying to figure out what this card needs to do instead of what it does now, because we've play tested it enough at this point, and one-sided kill all your guys. I mean, we talked about Hurricane last week. Like, one-sided kill all your guys is like not a good feeling in this game. The board states are so intricate. Like, board position matters so much. Being able to like lock down, you know, certain board states, even if I've just got 2 guys and you've just got 2 guys, or if it's 3 and 3, or I've got 2 and you've got 3, and it's like close and we're competing, and then I just play Heatwave. It's just like, oh, well, you had 1 card and I lose. And it really, really feels that way almost every time this thing gets played. And I'd like to say, oh, it's a super interesting card because it scales off power and speed, so there's like a ton of different essences you can put on it, and it's like, you know, you get a lot of interesting deck decisions, and that's true. Except it just doesn't really matter what you put on it. Like, all the versions are good. Make it daze the whole board until end of turn. Opponent's board. Yeah.
Fixed it.
I mean, that's just going to play like the 7-speed version. Like, the 7-speed version of this is exhaust your opponent's entire board, essentially, and go in for lethal, right? Like, you just attack through. And that's one of the versions that has been played quite a bit. And I think dazing the whole board almost does the same thing. I mean...
if this is OP, is Earthquake OP?
No, because Earthquake does both sides.
Yeah, but like...
Yeah, Griffin dodges it, but that's one combo with one epic, like, okay, you get to hit me once, and that's only if you either have speed on Earthquake so you can do it in combat, or I don't have a guy to play after you play Earthquake.
Yeah, I was playing one control matchup with another control deck, and they had, like, guard headquarters out, or this is, like, way later. This is, like,
yeah.
2 or 3. It's a structure that can defend, and it's really, really big, and I played Earthquake, and I'm like, it's finally happening. I'm going to hit you with Griffin, and then I'm like, oh, I forgot about your...
Jake, you know what I just realized? Does your... I'm sorry to cut you off, but the deck you're playing right now, isn't it Earthquake Infused Air?
Which one?
Is it Earthquake Infused Air, or are you on Earthquake Time Worn?
It's Infused Air.
Okay.
The one that we were playing with the other day.
So that doesn't exhaust any units. You need Earthbound to exhaust units.
Oh, crap. Have I been cheating this whole
time?
Yeah,
the whole time.
It's really Earthbound?
Yeah, it's Earthbound. You're like, well, what's the difference between that and Earthquake? Well, for starters, quit cheating.
Wow.
Anyway.
I'll be darned.
Heatwave is going to change. This is going to be, like, actually one of the first 2 cards that we really, really start cutting apart in Design Stream and start talking about what these colors do and why this card's not okay and why something else might be better. I want to attack these high points, right? Like, there are cards that are just outperforming radically, and that's one of the main things we have to do is, like, get them in line. Yeah. He just went and looked it up.
Yeah.
And then on the flip side, there are cards like, Alleyway Intimidator that are just like not getting played, and cards, that need to look at in the other direction and need to be picked up a little bit. But we'll definitely get there. Holy Symbol. Here's your love and friendship card.
That bottom ability helps.
That bottom ability is insane. Like, you're complaining about how good Lightning Warrior is, and this is a card.
Yeah. Like, Lightning Warrior just clears my board except one guy, and it just didn't matter.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. It depends on what that guy is, right? Is that guy, like, able to do something back? Like, does he have the ability to attack through? Can he gain stealth? Does he have accuracy? Does he have armor? Like, depending on which guy it is, it can really matter that he can't just be killed,
Yeah.
But yeah, Holy Symbol, it costs a light and a water. It's an item. It says if linked unit is a cleric, it gains this card's HP, so it's going to be at least 1 on the printed HP, but you can amp that up. And then it also says linked unit cannot be targeted by air, fire, or dark cards. And that word cards is super key. Earlier version of this, we considered making it events, but by making it cards, you gain the ability to shrug off Lightning Warrior, Assassin, different things that once they're in play can actually...
Blade Warrior,
yeah, all these things. It just says no, not me. I've got the power of my symbol.
Power of God and anime on my side.
That's right. The card stopped me for a game, but I still won. Yeah, I mean, he dragged the game out, and if he had a slightly different, and I was watching that game, Ruben. If he had a slightly different end game plan, this card allowing him to drag the game out forever could have actually been the difference. He just couldn't quite close through the number of units you were playing. But I mean, it's it goes to show that this card really does work. I mean, this thing definitely matters. Invisible Force. This is a decent card, I think.
Overpowered. Design this video game.
Yeah, go ahead and spoil that one. Since it sounds like you love it so much.
It costs dark and air. It should cost like twice that. Return target enemy unit to its owner's hand. If it has less power than this card, draw a card. I know, right? That's insane.
I'm so happy that you think this card is like as OP as it is.
It's like it's Wicked Essence locked. It's always
That's not
Wicked.
true. That's not true.
Well,
if you have so yes, Kathy has played it with Wicked, but if you need Wicked somewhere else, this card is perfectly serviceable with Surprise or even just Infused Air or whatever.
Need the power.
That's what I'm saying. It's going to be serviceable without a plus to power.
It also doesn't care about power that much. Like, it still bounces anything.
Right. I think the part that you're missing is this card is just like so perfectly balanced, actually, that you just don't even realize it, right? Because think about it. You play your guy, I play my Invisible Force. We've both spent resources, right?
You get a card.
Maybe you do. You get your guy back. We both get a card in our hand.
You think you're funny?
I'm not. I'm being serious. We both have the same number of play options that we had before we both did those things.
I should strangle you. Doesn't feel good.
If you say so.
I'm not going to sit here and pretend that, like, oh, these are apples and apples. No. I have my idiot back in my hand, and I'm like, thanks, idiot. And you're like, I drew a card off my deck. This is the same thing.
What if the card off my deck is, like, bad, though? What if I draw, like, a 1-drop and you get your sweet, like, 3-drop back?
I already had him out.
Well, I didn't. So we're right back where we started.
I hate this card. It feels so bad every time. And then you draw a card just to rub dirt in my eye.
It brings me so much pleasure that you are like so up in arms about this card, because I'll be honest, this card has gone through about 9 different iterations, and the first 8 were all like unplayable, like nobody ever touched them. And now that it's here, Kathy and I love playing this card. Yeah. We both put this in a lot of decks.
There she goes.
Might have to mute her. Yeah, there she is. She must have heard us talking about her favorite card. She must have known. She's in the background. Yeah, I think this one's great. I think it's a huge role player in the air decks because, like, believe it or not, outside of Call Lightning and Lightning Warrior, like, air is a little tight on interaction, right? Like, they don't have a ton of stuff in set 1. With Hurricane getting changed and, like, you know, just the way that the set 1 sort of like interaction list looks, like, I think this card's really important for air to have access to, even if they do have to, you know, go into a second color for it. Like, it's really powerful.
perhaps.
Oh,
This guy's a beast.
I will let you take this one from the top. I know that you're a bit of a fan.
Life Cycle Warden. 2 colorless, 1 water, 1 earth. Human Knight. Knights are a fantastic archetype. Little weak, if you ask me.
Yeah, they need some buffs.
Looking at this guy's stat line, and like the fact he's a 4 cost, he's a little cracked.
Oh, he's super cracked.
And that ability is insane. Like, having water and earth have really nice synergy when it comes to interacting with your resource zone, especially in control decks. Like, late game, having just like putting your hand in the cookie jar that is your resource zone and just pulling out the best cards that you put in there turn 1 and 2 is like really big value.
Yeah.
So yeah, when this card enters play, return target card in your resource zone to your hand. So you do neg a resource, but like it's usually always worth it.
Yeah, it's kind of part of the balance of this guy because on turn 4, it actually is like a struggle to play him sometimes.
Yeah,
like there are plenty of board states where on turn 4 you're like, man, I can put down this one giant like blocker, yes, but I'm gonna neg myself a resource. Then if my opponent has an answer for this, like if they can just like assassin it or life, they can what's the card we just saw, invisible force it back to my hand or whatever, like it's suddenly that -1 resource ends up mattering a lot. The flip side of that is what you just said. On turn 10, when you have, 8, 9, or 10 different cards in your resource zone, and you're like, okay, I play Life Cycle Warden, and I am going to draw out of this, like you said, you put your hand in the cookie jar is a really good description. I've got this entire cornucopia of options in front of me. Let me pick the best one for this board state and get it back.
Yeah, it's really nice.
Yeah, this card is super, super strong. The stat line is honestly pushed. It's like pushed on purpose. I mean, the idea is that, you, like I said, curving out with this guy is a little tricky. You don't always want to jam him on 4. So, his stat line is kind of meant to represent that reality. But yeah, just a great role player. This card's actually gone through a couple of iterations. The fact that it's 4 CCC is really important, so you can't put Pure Earth on it, and then you can just Life Cycle Warden your Life Cycle Wardens forever.
Yeah. Dude, I love putting Time Worn on this guy, putting him in the throne room deck.
Yes. What's that make him? A 5/5/3, right?
A 5/5/3, yeah. He's so big.
Yeah. Just obnoxious. But yeah, this card is honestly such an automatic staple if you're playing Earth Water. Like it would literally be a crime for somebody to build an Earth Water deck without a playset of this. And by that I mean one time you built an Earth Water deck without a playset of this.
So I didn't have access to the drives. We were building it.
Ruben says cough Jake in the chat.
God bless. That's not fair. I was building it through vicariously through you and your monitor, and I just completely forgot about multicolor cards.
Yeah. It's pretty funny, but no, this guy's great. Super, super huge, staple for this color combination.
He's strong.
Here's another staple in my opinion. I think this guy is insane.
Needs powered.
Maybe. Okay, Lowland Hunter.
Kills Gale Warrior.
I mean, yeah, with a power he kills Gale Warrior. I can agree with that being quite strong, but without a power he just like stonewalls like so many other things. Yeah. So this is a 2-cost unit in Light Earth. It has accuracy and sworn enemy air for +4 speed with a stat line of 3/2/2. +4 speed cranks him up to a 6 when fighting air units, which is basically saying you're almost never going to be faster than me. Like, if you put Blinding Essence on a unit, maybe you can compete, but for the most part, I am hitting air units first. I am the anti-air combat police unit. And yeah, I think this guy's great. He's just got a lot on him for a 2-cost, right? He's not always going to be like a windmill slam, like, oh, look at my super strong card. But like on turn 2 or turn 3 or turn 4, if you're working this guy in, like he's going to do something. That accuracy or that sworn enemy or even just having an arbitrary guy in play.
I disagree. That'd be very strong.
Oh, Swift Strike Essence? I mean... I don't know. Like I'm not saying I'm gonna make a Swift Strike Essence, but I feel like this guy would be sweet with Swift Strike because then he's actually like Swift Striking the Swift Strikers. He's like,
sure. He's
like actually the anti air card. But I don't know. I just feel like this is one of those cards that I'm never upset to have in my deck. I always enjoy drawing this. I'm just like, the most recent deck I had it on just was actually playing Pure Earth on it just to have like clog the ground a little bit on turn 2. If I can set up one good trade, that's good for me. I can use accuracy to attack into like your 2/2/2s or your 2/2/3s and like kill your board state a little bit. If all else fails, I'm going to chump block with it and it's become a resource,
Yeah. It's not bad. Natural forces. One water, one earth, just like Distrust.
Yeah.
Put target unit into its owner's resource zone. Exhausted. That player may return another card from the resource zone to their hand. So, like, that first sentence is pretty good. I mean, this answers just about anything.
Yeah.
Like Lightning Warrior, Epics, he just tosses them to the side.
As
The problem is, though,
yeah.
you really don't want to cast this more than like once
True.
on your enemy.
True.
Because let's say you put the really important guy in the resource zone, you're not going to do it to somebody else because then they're going to pick their important guy back up.
Right.
But
one of the things that might not be immediately apparent is that you can actually nuke your own guy with this.
I've done that a handful of times.
Yeah, I have too.
Just to get something out of my resource zone.
Yep. And if you're late enough in the game and you just draw for turn and it's like, oh man, I drew like some crummy 2-cost card, you just play your 2-cost guy, and then it's like, well, I really don't want to natural forces my opponent because he's got like, you know, XYZ epic in his resource zone, or there's like a lightning warrior or a turn the tides or something hanging back there that I'm just like don't want to give them on turn 10, you know.
Yeah.
Boom. Natural forces my own guy, morph it into a better card, you know, get back, you know, whatever it is that I have in my resource zone that I've been, you know, wishing I could have in my hand instead. This can do it. And
yeah, typically run like 2 of these in a deck.
Yeah, I think that's fine. I mean, it's very much like an emergency exit at times when you have to get rid of something that they haven't played like straight away. And sometimes the tempo can matter too, right? Like if you're on the aggro plan, if you're pressuring, if you're actually winning the board and they stick something pretty nasty, you can play natural forces, and even if they're going to pick up something like equally as nasty or even maybe a little nastier out of their resource zone, you still spent 2 resources to like put them off of their entire turn's play, right?
Yeah.
Like you send it back in, you get to make your attacks or make your, you know, production on the board, whatever it was that you're going to do. And then sure, next turn they're going to have another thing, but like maybe you've just created enough tempo, enough pressure that doesn't matter. Like
yeah, that's actually like playing this with Essence of the Bounty.
Yeah. Sure.
It'd be like, it's like, oh, you just spent 6 resources on a guy.
Yep.
Well, your turn's done, and I'm full on resources again.
Exactly. Yeah, I send your guy back. I get to deploy all my threats and just start pushing for you know, try to end the game. And again, if the big nasty that they pick up out of the resource zone, you know, doesn't have steadfast or isn't, you know, capable of interacting with multiple threats, then maybe who cares? Okay, they play it. I keep attacking. You know, you kill 1 or 2 of my guys with your sweet card that you just got back. The rest of them are coming in. You know. Yeah, I think this card actually creates some really interesting decision points in most of the games that it's played, and I like that.
It's also like nice because Earth is very light in interaction, so
Sure.
it's a nice, nice card to have access to.
Sure.
OP. Ruben loves this card.
Ruben does love this card. We got Regenerative Growth. It costs a colorless, a light, and an earth. It's a continuous event that can be linked to either a unit or a structure. So you can put this on pretty much just about anything, just like not items, whatever. But it says linked card gains regenerate 1, and then if you have an earth essence on this, if it's earthbound, linked card also gains another regenerate 1.
It's very strong.
Important note, and I know we've said this multiple times, but anytime you see these keyword abilities with a numeric value like that, they do stack on themselves. So this ultimately amounts to regenerate 2. And yeah, I mean, obviously the number one, maybe not obvious, but I'll say obviously the number one target for this is usually your shrine, and you just sit there healing 2 every turn and making the aggro decks complain. HP. Yeah, it's a real stopgap. It really gives you a ton of time to figure out how to not die.
Yeah, 100%.
But that being said, it goes on other cards too. I mean, I saw you were playing a game with Ruben the other day, and you had this on your Geralt, and you were just like,
"Yeah, I had this and Holy Symbol, so he was 9 HP.
He's never gonna die." Yeah,
I lost that game.
I mean, you did, but you did it in style, like without a doubt.
Yeah, that dude was a monster.
Yeah. Wavemender. I am actually going to like curse this card's name right now. AJ recently made a cleric deck, like world premiere cleric tribal, like he actually went in on it. And this card, when you read it, you're like, heals 1. Who cares?
Yeah.
Heals 1 from all your cards. That can't even be that bad. But let me tell you about how annoying it is to like be facing down cleric tribal and all their guys just have giant HP, and you basically always have to use like 2 sources of damage to kill any of them, or worse, they have like holy symbol on and you have to try to kill them through combat, and like you're just like cannot break through the board, and then you finally get like 2 of their guys down to 1 HP, and you're like, oh my god, I have a firebomb in my hand. I'm gonna firebomb and just like ruin their entire board, and then they just go wave mender, and you're like, oh, it just heals everybody. My firebomb doesn't do anything anymore. I'm so sad. I'm so sad. And that's exactly what happened to me in a game, like literally like 2 days ago. I was just like, man, this card.
Yeah.
At a glance, I thought it was just a bad renewer, but this thing is not. It is not. It is so much worse at times.
Dude, I'm playing Mend with Pure Light right now.
Yeah.
In my one deck.
Yeah.
That's 7 HP.
Yeah, it is.
3.
Yeah.
That's insane.
It is.
I was like, this thing takes Pure.
Yeah. Yeah. Went through the keyhole.
Our tower reference, right?
This card's gonna get me sued. Yeah. But
whatever.
Yeah. Cost of Darken and Air. It's got 2 abilities. It says exhaust target unit, and target unit gains stealth 1 until end of turn.
Neat.
Sweet little card for creating interesting interactions. This is another one of those cards that just gives you massive play opportunity, right? It's like, okay, I can exhaust your guy and then give my other guy stealth, and then my guy can attack your guy and kill it. Or I can exhaust your guy, give my smallest guy stealth, attack with my smallest guy, you can't defend it. Then I attack with my big guy, going both at your shrine, and your medium guy can't defend against my big guy, and so on and so on and so on, right? It just creates all these like really intricate, like, how do I make the board feel awful for you this turn? You know,
another soft combo for counterintelligence agent.
Yep, it very much is. Nobody's actually bothered to build that deck yet. The Air Dark counterintelligence agent with this and covert operation.
Expensive.
I mean, it is, but imagine the board state where you like give one of their guys stealth, exhaust the other one, play counterintelligence agent, kill the one with stealth, and then attack the exhausted one and get them both. Like,
yeah,
that's like not that hard to do.
So I got such bad whiplash. We were playing that game, and then all of a sudden you played covert operation on my guy. I was like, oh no, I know what's happening.
Yeah, I've seen this. I've had premonitions about this moment.
Yeah.
Okay, well that's the end of the multicolor cards, not counting the 2 that I left till the end. I think we've already mentioned this guy once tonight.
Oh, it's him.
Pure Light. You can spoil this one. I'll spoil the next one.
Old Man Geralt. Trinity Speaker. Let me get his title out of the way.
Yeah.
This is an epic unit. You can have one of him. Unless it was 3 years ago, you could play 3 of them.
We don't talk about the dark times.
The old triple Trinity Speaker, I remember. 3 colorless, 1 light, 1 water, and 1 earth. So it's like the 3 goody 2-shoe colors. And,
Ruben just says boo in chat.
Yeah, Ruben's literally evil.
Yep, it's true. We'll see that in a moment.
Epic unit, human cleric. So he's part of the cleric tribe. A lot of different things you can do with him. Like Holy Symbol gives him the extra HP, which is nice.
Yep.
Lightbound, 3 HP. Waterbound, 3 power. Earthbound, when his unit is destroyed, placing the resource zone exhausted. So you got a few options with this guy.
Yes.
I played him with pretty much any variant. Putting water light on him, he's massive.
Yes.
He's a 6/6/3 that comes in and heals for 6.
Yeah. So you actually skip that ability. You never read it out loud, but his entrance effect says when this card enters play, heal damage equal to this card's HP from your shrine. It's a lot. This is the epitome of the turn the quarter card. Like, oh, my opponent's beating me down. Oh, I got to 6. Bam. Play Old Man Geralt. Heal my shrine for a ton. Put a massive body into play. You know, we'll see what we can do.
My latest deck with him has him with Pure Light. So he gets the 3 HP, 1 HP from Pure Light, and then heals 2. So he comes in and he just heals 9 off the shrine.
That's gross.
Which is a lot.
It's truly gross.
It's a lot of HP. I think the game I lost against Ruben, he probably did around 100 damage that game.
It's so insane.
I was healing so much that game. But that's kind of all the deck did. If I had a Zealot in that deck...
Yeah, you need a way to actually close it out. Like, that's the thing. He was just playing so many, like, random dudes you could never really get through.
Yeah.
He couldn't really get through either until he literally ran your deck out of cards.
With Lightning Warrior, yeah, who just whipping my ass.
Just killing anything that you left in play.
That Waterbound is not a joke. Like, this guy being a 6/6/3 is, like, kind of scary.
Believe it or not, I've actually played him as Water Earthbound a couple times. I want to say in 2 different decks.
He's a 3/6/3.
He's a 3/6/3 that you can recycle, exactly. And if the decks that I was playing in were super heavy Water Earth decks with like no actual light cards. He was like the only light card. I played him off some dual essences or whatever. And I was just the game plan is just, you know, churn him back, Turn the Tides him back, just constantly be able to get him back out of the resource zone. And heal for 3 like is obviously not that impressive. The punchline is just jamming a 3/6/3 like every single turn. Like that's a body. Like 6 power 3 speed is really good in combat. Like that's a lot to deal with.
100%.
Yeah. And yeah, just being able to always get like that bottom effect, the Earthbound becoming a resource thing, that is, and you've already kind of touched on it. That is like the marquee, like water, earth, like coming together strategy, right? The earth cards go to the resource zone, the water card gets them back, the water cards get them back. And when you can create those like board states where it's like, I can get access to my best cards multiple times. You know, that's some of the toughest like end game strategies to have to deal with, where they don't die to aggro, they smooth themselves through the mid game, and then they make these plays where it's like, well, I can kill that, but then what? Because they're just going to do it again.
Yeah. I'm a huge fan of this card. Cool name. Geralt's a cool name.
Yeah.
It's a lot of options you can do with this guy.
Yeah.
One of the better cards for just like doing many things.
Agreed. And he doesn't play the same way in every deck, right? Like you're saying that the version you're playing of him right now is just the most potential healing. Ignore the rest, right? And that's just one of the ways that you can put him together. So
and he was surprisingly like doing work against like enemy units.
I mean, he's 7 HP with 3 power and 3 speed. That's still a
I
stat
had
line.
on him, so he had 9 HP.
Yeah.
You would like just eat 5 damage from something, hit back.
Yeah.
And then like he'd go to fight something again, and they're like, "Oh, you're gonna die because I'm faster." I'm like,
Yeah.
"Mend 5 HP."
Yeah. That's so
Run it
broken.
back.
That's so broken. I'm sure Ruben's just over there like writhing in agony right now after
Ruben
hearing
won
that.
that game. Won that game. Forget you, Ruben.
And then we have the final card for
Speaking of
tonight's stream. We've got Rubane, Fury's Avatar. This thing costs 2 void, a dark, a fire, and an air. So if Jake's proclaiming that the Geralt is the goody two-shoe colors, then this is the this is like the motorcycle gang color. Yeah. We've got an epic unit warrior here. He's got 3 abilities. The first one says when this card enters play, if played as the first action of the turn, deal damage equal to this card's power to target shrine. Keynote, slightly different than Arsonist. You have to go shrine with this, right? Second ability, you pay double fire. This card gains accuracy until end of turn, which is gross on his stat line. And then the final ability is pay 1 colorless, discard a card, and recover this card.
Really scary.
Really scary. Really scary. So
I will say that like in the matchup with Rubane and Geralt, we were literally, me and Ruben were playing, like he was playing Rubane deck, I was playing a Geralt deck. It was very thematic. And it's turn 6, and I'm like, I can get Geralt this turn, and I can turn things around. I can actually probably win this. And then he just plays Rubane first action, and I'm like, oh.
Yeah. So this card's really sweet because it kind of, I think much like Geralt has like the healing, the recursion, it kind of like has, you know, a lot of the tropes from those colors. Rubane does the same thing here, right? You've got the like first action requirement, which is very much going to feed into your dark decks, your board state decks, right? You've got the accuracy plus the recovery, which is like kind of a combination of air and fire. But when you bring those two together, you're creating this like this real menace in combat, right? Like he's able to get in there, attack your guys, pick your board apart. This guy takes it to a bunch of different essences. I've seen him with Essence of Combat. I've seen him with Essence of Might. I've actually seen him with Torrid for just the power and the speed. There are any number of ways to build this guy, just depending on where your essences are in the rest of your deck, right? Like that's one of the important things to always remember is it's like, okay, this is a one-shot epic. Like which essence do I have room for? Ruben almost always plays Might, I think, because he just wants to have the biggest punch on that comes into playability, which is, you know, if you think you can hold initiative, if that's what your deck is going for, yeah, like pop off. 5 damage is no joke.
It's a lot.
Yeah. But this card's really sweet. I think it's really dynamic. You know, at first glance, you might just think, oh, what a brain dead aggro card. You just get initiative and then you hit him for 5, and it's like, yeah, I mean that's like part of what it does, but there are a lot of other words here, right? Like accuracy is a really important thing. Like don't ignore that, you know.
The last ability is probably his best ability.
It's really scary. I mean, there are
recovering in this game is insane.
Yeah, and he just does it for himself. We haven't seen a ton of that yet. That's actually in some of the future sets where the Air Tribe like gets a lot more of a focus on that repeat combat, you know, sort of strat. And yeah, that is scary. I don't know if there's a better word for it. Especially, this guy's got 4 or 5 power, like pretty solid stat line, and he's just coming in like
so jacked, dude.
2 or 3 times a turn. Like, forget it if he has accuracy, right? Because you get accuracy until end of turn. That's all those attacks. I can recover him 3 times and attack 3 of your units and just punch your entire board down.
Yeah,
like,
scary.
Yeah, really sweet card. But yeah, that rounds out multicolor. We didn't run that long, about an hour and 10 minutes. Kind of happy we got through it all. I was really worried the essences were going to take forever, but we crushed it.
We skipped half of them.
we skipped like 28 of them. What are you talking about?
Yeah.
But yeah, I think that the multicolor cards, for the most part, you get like a good feel for how some of the tropes like work together. Distrust is an example of like, it's almost like an evasion card out of your hand, but then also a ramp card. So it's like really doing, trying to capture like what those 2 colors would do in the same deck together, where like I'm hurting your resources while trying to promote my own and stuff like that,
I mean, like, multi-cards are like, a lot of the fun you have in deck building is going to be like fitting all your multi-cards together with your like epic warriors, and you're going to talk a bunch of crap going like, my dad will beat up your dad.
It's true. I mean, you and I and some of the other alpha testers have had obviously a lot of opportunity to play with, more sets, the future league worth of sets. And like, as you get more multicolor cards, deck building becomes so crazy because it's just like, okay, which color combinations am I playing here? Which 3-color epic cough, cough, roll am I playing here? Which deck am I just trying? And you can literally take a card like Rubane that's a 3-color card and be like, okay, I'm playing Rubane. That's 1 card. What are my other 49 going to be?
Because I start most of my decks either with a gimmick, or what cool multicolor epic I want to play.
Yeah, that's awesome, and that's what I always wanted. I always want the epics to be like the sort of like the cornerstone of your deck. Like, not that they're required for the deck to work, but like they are the sort of like the crescendo of what you're trying to do, right? Like
there's like a season 4 or 5 spoiler that I'm not going to talk about.
Sure.
But like it does, epics get even more important, and I'm really
geez, we got a lot of work to do on that, but
that's like 10 years from now. So
we'll see how long it takes.
See you then.
But so Rubane, nice way to kind of round out the list today. I'll just go ahead and kind of say it right now. A couple, quick announcements. Next stream is going to be a lot more focused. We're going to be looking at a couple of cards, a couple of strategies, a couple of ideas, and talking about it. I actually might really try to get more than 2 people or 3 people, maybe even 4 people in the stream, so we can have a little bit more debate about strategies. And then, at that point, I'm really hoping to start getting a little bit more community involvement as far as like, what do you guys think this card would play like? What do you guys think about how does this card feel from an outside perspective? Stuff like that. Another reminder.
Don't listen to him.
Another reminder, just for anybody who's listening, we do have gameplay available through Patreon now. We actually have decks up on Tabletop Simulator. I know Zoltan's in the Discord right now during the stream. He's had a couple of games with. I know he's played against Jake. He's played against Kathy. I've played with them, I think 1, maybe 2 times now. A lot of gameplay is available. We've got people looking for games often.
I was looking at some today.
Yeah, I'm really. I know you were, and I was like out with AJ watching movies and stuff. But I want to see some more games getting played. I want to see some more people, checking these out and really getting to see it. We're trying to turn that corner and get deck building available for the patrons as well. But as of right now, I mean, at least we have a table set up where you can go and check out a few things. I am going to rotate the decks that are on there and like try to get some more things up for people to check out. And other than that, I know AJ likes to usually do like a highlight of the week. I can't. I haven't played enough games this week to really do anything. Do you got anything other than your battle with Ruben that you can think of? Yeah.
No.
Hasn't been the most eventful week, but
coolest thing I did was the continuous event equipment on my Geralt.
Yeah.
Making him a demigod.
Make him enormous. Yeah, I mean
He didn't die.
that's not bad. Yeah, he lasted till the bitter end. That's very true.
Not die.
But yeah, otherwise, I guess we're gonna kind of cut it there, and see everybody back next week ish. Whenever we get this started. Don't know exactly when we're going to do it with the holidays, but we'll be coming back pretty much as soon as possible. And just again, thank you everybody that tuned in just to kind of watch us talk about these sweet cards. The video will eventually be up on YouTube, and just thank you to all my patrons in general for supporting me and helping me through this. You know what? Actually, Jake, I've got a better idea for a final announcement, like a highlight of the week.
What's up? What's up?
I hired an artist this week.
Oh, he did. And
I
I've
did.
seen the art. I'm excited.
So we're gonna hopefully have something to show off in the near future. But
that'd be fun.
otherwise,
spoiler. He
go ahead.
hired an artist like 2 weeks ago.
No. Don't do that. But it's been a long time coming to actually get to a point where we can see something. So I'm really excited. But otherwise, we'll see you guys next time, and thank you again for tuning in.